Welcome back, everyone, to the adventure. Last night, I was streaming over on Twitch, where you should definitely come check me out if you want to add some girth to your muscles and your manhood. And it just so happened that one of the community members suggested we raid into a leftist stream, Echoplex Media, which considering the nature of his stream and audience, I think the word inclusion of the word echo there is particularly poignant. And I think the conversation we had is illustrative of why it's so beneficial sometimes to talk to the other side, at least in the current iterations that it exists for modern political discourse. And it's not to change their minds. You're not going to do that. And it's not to make inroads and try to, create some kind of a amicable discussion. That's not going to happen in mass. It's good for two things. You get to challenge your own beliefs. You get to stand up for your own beliefs. And therefore, if you're somewhat dedicated to the art of discussion and arguing, you're going to become better at being an advocate for your beliefs. And two, they get to hang themselves with their own rope. And in my opinion, that's what this guy did last night. Despite what his audience seems to believe, the main product of this conversation is that this guy demonstrated that the left is incapable of independent thought, and their chief tactic when mounting an argument is often, no, I disagree with that, no. I'll let the clip speak for itself. Here we go.
Like, I'm not telling you that I don't think you're smart and that you can't figure things out, but what I'm telling you is one of the things, and tomorrow night's show, we make fun of the intellectual dark web, like Jordan Peterson and those people, right? There's this idea of sense making where you can, through your own, introspection or whatever, determine the answers to complicated questions just by thinking about them. And I don't think we can do that.
Well, then we have a fundamental disagreement there too. That's how the overwhelming majority of revolutionary technologies came to exist. Like Einstein, for example, he literally looked at light and thought about it and came up with some of the most fundamental mathematics equations that we use today. And now watch what he does here. Watch what he does here. I say something that's true, and he tries to pivot into the territory of bullshit and deflections and adjacent truths to argue the true thing I just said.
You think if Albert Einstein were he alive today, if he was on this call,
irrelevant,
do you think that Albert Einstein would be more likely to be like sympathetic to my position or sympathetic to your position?
I'm sure. I don't know. Societal conditioning and the age we live in can have a massive effect on our personalities and the way we see the world. If you took him like 5 years before his death, if you took him from that point in time and put him in this call, I'm willing to bet he'd be more sympathetic to my point of view. But if he grew up in this day and age, I have no idea.
The people in chat are like, Albert Einstein based his work on the physics that were happening before him. And he was also a physicist.
Shout out to Stella Ask This. He's a mod in my stream. He's a really great guy. He's been very productive towards the growth of the stream over on Twitch. He also streams on Twitch. Please go check him out if you're on the platform. But see, this is highlightive of what they do. It's like, how is any of that relevant to the point I made? I said something that's true. Einstein famously stared at light all the time. And he was in his head thinking about it all the time. He used introspection, critical thinking, mathematical thinking, to come up with E equals MC squared and a bunch of other math that was revolutionary. my one example completely disproved this guy's point, and he just veered into random bullshit to try to wiggle out of it, as the left does.
Not for nothing, right? Like Albert Einstein didn't just come out of nowhere after waiting tables and be like, here's the theory of relativity.
I know he didn't pop out of his mom and write E = MC squared. I'm well aware of that. He went to college, famously dropped out. I'm aware.
Albert Einstein had a team of academics working with him when he was doing all of the stuff.
Shout out to Maru. He's also a mod in my stream. The blue name there.
Yeah, I'm not refuting that. I'm not arguing that. When I say sometimes I oversimplify things or romanticize things to such an extent that it shoots me in the foot. When I say he looked at light, what I'm talking about is his famous obsession with light, and he was known to stare into sources of light for hours just thinking.
That's a bad idea. Do you think people should stare into a light source?
About the whole conversation went this way. You see what I'm talking about here. We got onto this. Oh, wrong screen. We got onto this because I said that I was opposed to a certain drug that's being administered en masse for a certain airborne pathogen. And he tried to claim that I couldn't possibly understand anything about gene therapy or the implications of a certain drug because I don't have an extensive medical background. And he and his audience attempted to discredit me, attempted to say that the medical background I do have in being a decompression chamber operator. That's what the left always does. They discredit. They say you couldn't possibly know. And then, of course, when, a literal doctor, Dr. Deborah So, Dr. Robert Malone, who was part of this conversation as well, he discredited Robert Malone's work. They always just attack and discredit and smear because they have no real argument. And if you just engage with them and highlight things like this, it becomes very clear very quickly that they have no argument. Their argument is, you're not a doctor, you couldn't possibly know. And then you show them a doctor who says the things you say and agrees with the things you say. And then they say, oh, that guy's just a liar and a grifter. That's what he basically said about Robert Malone. He said, that guy's just lying. He didn't invent mRNA, when he literally has over a dozen patents, all of which pertain in some way to mRNA. And then he also... Echoplex Media also tried to say that patents don't matter because only 2% of them ever get turned into a product or service. Like that's in any way a relevant point to Dr. Robert Malone's litany of patents. So I just thought this whole conversation was illustrative of which side is truly intellectually superior, which side actually has basic critical thinking, facts, and logic on their side, and why it should be so easy to win against these people if you just engaged patiently, calmly, and let them hang themselves with their own rope. If you want to go and look at the full VOD, it's live on his Twitch stream. Right there, Echoplex Media. Me and Caitlin come in. We come in, let's see, I'm going to cycle back here just so I can tell you where we come in. We come in at about the 2:51 mark, and we left shortly after the clip that I just played for you. Obviously, because there wasn't much point in hanging around. And to be, that's not really the only reason. He also kind of shooed us off because he wanted to get back to what he was doing before we got there. But yeah, I just thought the whole thing was worth talking about. I found it amusing. I found it demonstrative of the problem with the modern left and the way they seem to think and view the world. And I just had to talk about it. All right, guys. I appreciate y'all being here. We're going to have a video later today talking about the Joe Biden documents and how the left is, as always, egregiously inconsistent. I'll see you there. Welcome to the adventure.